everybody, and we're back making some more food for our Queen Extravaganza. And Penguin just got done making one of Roger Taylor's favorite things, some Japanese food. She made some sushi. We're going to have a couple of Japanese things during our Eat Extravaganza, which you have already seen if you're watching this. So I'm going to make something that Freddie Mercury really liked. We're going to be making some spare ribs with onion sauce. This is our version of spare ribs with onion sauce. And we're also going to be having some chili con carne. According to Peter Freestone, or Phoebe, as Freddie called him, these were a couple of his favorite foods. He liked things spicy, not too hot, but he liked them spicy. So the original recipe calls for 4 pounds of spare ribs. But we're only going to make about a half a slab since it's just me and her and we have other things to eat. So all my things I'm going to be cutting in half except for the onions. I did about 2 cups worth of onions because I like a lot of onion. So to make these spare ribs, what you're going to need is a slab of spare ribs, about 4 pounds. You're going to need some oil. I'm going to use some olive oil, real garlic or some minced garlic, sesame oil, soy sauce. I'm using our mushroom soy sauce, a little chili powder, 2 cups of onions. I diced up some of it and I sliced some. That way you get kind of a yin and yang. You'll get some that cooks all the way down and some that doesn't. I'm going to mix some rice wine vinegar and some white vinegar. You can use whichever you want, or you can even use apple cider vinegar. Some chili sauce. I put harissa in mine just to make it just a little bit more spicy. And some mustard powder. First thing you're going to do is you're going to get your ribs and you're going to put them in a pan in your oven at 400 degrees. Meaty side down, and cook them for 30 minutes. So I'm going to get this pan I got here. It's a big like pizza pan, but it's got handles on the side. Makes it easier to handle. And I'm going to get my ribs stuck in the oven at 400. Make sure I got that right again. It's been a while since I made these. 450 for 30 minutes. And I'll be back and show you how to make the sauce. Quick jump back there. Penguin reminded me I forgot one of the ingredients I had sitting over on the counter. Brown sugar. You're going to need 3 tablespoons of brown sugar too. So I went ahead and I got my ribs stuck in the pan. You can see right there. Meaty side down. Like I said, I'm going to cook them at 450 for 30 minutes. And then now I'll be back and show you how to make the sauce. Okay guys, now we're going to make our onion sauce for those ribs. The ribs are in cooking 450 for 30 minutes. I'm going to put just a couple spoonfuls. I'm using olive oil. You can use whatever kind of oil you like. A couple spoonfuls down in there. And then we'll get to add our other ingredients when that warms up here. Just a moment. Okay. Now, like I said, I got extra onions. Should only be 1 cup for the amount I'm making, but I like a lot of onions. So, and I diced mine fine, and then I had some bigger pieces in there. Get all that onion down in there. And we're going to use a couple tablespoons. Let me grab my spoon here. It calls for 2 cloves of garlic. Or like we always use the minced garlic, so I'm going to get just a couple tablespoons. I like a lot of sauce. Get that in there.
Me too.
Penguin says, me too. We're going to let that start cooking down and sizzle for a little bit till it gets tender. You know, it starts getting that little translucent. Then we're going to go back and add all our other dry and liquid ingredients I showed you. And I did forget too, you're going to have about a half a cup of water. And lemon juice. I forgot the lemon juice. It's been a while since we made these. Usually we just do our ribs with sauce, regular barbecue sauce on them, different ways. So it's been a few years since I made this, so I apologize, I forgot. When that gets sizzling good, I'll bring you back. Okay guys, it got hot about a minute ago, and you can see the steam rising off of that. Let all them onions and all that garlic in there cook down in that oil for just a few minutes. Like I said, when they start getting translucent, you know, a little bit soft, then it's time to add that water and add all the dry seasonings. So you just keep stirring it a little bit, make sure it's not sticking. Rotating the onions and the garlic around so everything's getting to the bottom of the pot. And we'll be back in just a moment. Okay guys, these have been going about 8-9 minutes. You see there, you see the color of them. If you can, they're starting to get translucent and really soft. So it's time to add the rest of our ingredients. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put that half a cup of water in there. And we'll stir it around. You can always add more water if it gets too thick on you as it's cooking, or later on when you're using it to baste the ribs with. let me go grab the rest of my ingredients and we'll get them in there. Okay, now for the amount I'm making, like I said, I'm only making half. I'm going to use 1 tablespoon of mushroom soy sauce, or you can use any kind of soy sauce you like. Get that down in there. I'm going to add, the full recipe calls for 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, but since I'm only making a half, we're going to put 3 teaspoons of lemon juice. I'm only going to add 1 tablespoon because sesame oil is pretty potent. Just 1 teaspoon of sesame oil. And then it calls for 1/4 cup of chili sauce. And I like chili sauce, but we're not going to go quite the whole 1/4 cup. That's a 1/4 cup right there. And I've got it, I don't know, probably 2/3, 3/4 of the way full. Because I like a lot of chili sauce. Got a good flavor. Get that all right down in there. There we go. Give it a stir. Okay, now, like I said, it calls for vinegar. It calls for 1/4 cup if you're making the full recipe. And I'm going to use a little over half of this. But I like mixing them. I got a little bit of rice wine vinegar here. Put a little bit of that in there. And I got some plain white vinegar. You can use any kind of vinegar you want. Of course, balsamic's going to be really strong. But I got it about 3/4 of the way full there, too. Drop that down in there. Give it another stir. And now I'm ready for my dry ingredients. Let me go grab them and I'll be right back. Okay, if you were doing the whole thing, it would call for 3 tablespoons of brown sugar. So I'm going to cut that back a little bit too. We're going to go with about 2 tablespoons, maybe just a hair over. I like that chili sauce. I like brown sugar because it adds a really good flavor. And we're going to add 1 teaspoon of harissa. Give it a little spice. A good teaspoon of harissa. And we're going to add, it calls for 1 tablespoon of dry mustard. We're going to add a teaspoon. Pretty good teaspoon there. There we go. If you don't have dry mustard in a pinch not on this, but on other things, I've used just a little bit of yellow mustard. I know it doesn't have quite the same flavor, but close enough for government work, as they say. And it calls for 1 teaspoon of chili powder. So we're going to dump a little bit out there on the spoon. That looks like a good teaspoon right there. Get that all stirred in. Now the best thing you can do is just give it a good stir. Turn the heat down just a little bit. I had that on just a little over medium, so now I'm getting it down about 1 notch above low. And we're going to let it set and simmer for a while without the lid on it. Let it start cooking down. Because there's about the consistency of it right now. You want it more like a sauce. Not too thick, but not too thin either. That way it'll stick to the ribs. So we're going to let that set, and we're just going to let that simmer for a little bit. And when it gets close to being done, I'll bring you back. Okay guys, there's my ribs after a half hour. You can see the bones are starting to show now. And there's really no grease to drain out. So I'm going to let them cool off for about 10 minutes. And then I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to individually slice them and flip them over. Hang on guys. Okay guys, there's the ribs. They've been in for half an hour. You can see the bones starting to show. So I'm going to let them cool for about 10 minutes. And I'm going to individually slice those into individual spare ribs and flip them over. And then we can put our sauce on food. And you can see our sauce is still simmering there. It's almost to the consistency I want it. Not quite. Still got to let it simmer and cook down a little bit more. But I'll bring you back when I'm ready to cut the ribs. Okay, I got them flipped over and I've cut them into individual pieces. And I'm going to transfer them into a smaller baking pan that I've lined with foil to let them cook. Because I'm going to put foil over the top of them as they cook to make them more tender. You're going to get them all in a pan. You can use the same pan you had, like I said, or you can use a different one like I'm doing here, just because we're only having a small amount of ribs, so I can stand that one up there so I can nut the other one in here. And they just fit. Squeeze it down in there a little bit. And then we're going to take our onion sauce that we made. You can see down in there. And we're going to just put that right over the top of those ribs and spread it around. You could smell it. You wouldn't believe how good this smells.
Smells so good. Looks good. Smells good.
That's the reason I decided to go with a smaller pan since we had less ribs. That way the sauce will be kind of forced to stay in there. You're going to cook it at 350 now. I got my oven turned down to 350 for an hour and a half. So about every half hour or so, take it out, check it, move your sauce around a little bit. If you see it's too thick, you can always add a little bit of water to the pan and put your foil back over.
But be careful when you pull the foil off that you don't burn yourself because of the steam.
Yeah, there'll be steam. Every little bit out of there I can.
Smells really good, guys.
Okay, get my other piece of foil.
You see that? Yum, yum.
Another piece of foil and cover this. Guess I'm going to pop that in the oven at 350 for an hour and a half, and about every half an hour I'm going to take it out and check it. When they're done, we'll be back. Okay guys, there you go. They're out of the oven. Red
Watch
hot.
the steam. Woo.
Don't they look good?
Steam is coming off of those.
Let me get them put on a plate and we'll show you what they look like. Freddie, of course, everybody knows Freddie Mercury. He gets shadowed. We made spare ribs with onion sauce. That was one of his favorites, according to Peter Freestone, who was Freddie's friend and worked for him for many, many years.